Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. 50 stabbings in the UK in 2019. Is the country in a knife crime crisis? Video of British soldiers using a British politician as target practice go viral. NASA clapped back at Indian space program over space junk. And is YouTube doing enough to keep dangerous content off the site? Well, first up to the United Kingdom, where there has been a worrying increase in the number of stabbings all across the country. And while the political class focus on Brexit, people are dying in the streets.
Yo, knife crime is not new, yeah? I grew up in the 80s and there was knife crime back then between blacks and whites, and now it's definitely between young black men in small, tiny communities, and it's affecting everyone. We all look stupid, but it's dumb. We don't need to be killing ourselves. We have so much more we can offer.
This is where a man in his early 20s was stabbed to death on Tuesday evening near Gospel Oak Station in London, just hours after Theresa May's emergency knife crime summit finished at Downing Street. The government announced new plans that could see teachers and health workers accountable if they fail to spot warning signs of violent crime amongst young people.
And in the recent months, we know we've seen an appalling number of young lives that have been cut short or devastated by serious violent crime.
The scale of knife attacks has soared in England and Wales, with a greater concentration of attacks taking place in London. 285 stabbings took place just last year and mark the highest levels since records began more than 70 years back. Almost 50 people have been stabbed in the UK since the beginning of this year, and London is on course to have more murders this year than in any year since 2005. So what are some of the causes that have led to a spike in knife crime?
All these drillers and chingins, TTP love doing up drilling. Big rap bats and spinners, dingers, brown skin girls that flirt. From South London, take no nonsense, man.
YouTube has already deleted more than half of drill music videos, which have become increasingly popular in the UK. But fans argue they reflect the artist's experiences in the same way that hip-hop as a movement reflected inner city life in cities like New York. Other causes include drug gangs, cuts to youth services and provocations on social media. But conversations around knife crime tend to be highly racialised in a way that reflects patterns in London, but not the rest of the country. For instance, young black men are not a majority outside London in countries like Scotland, which used to have one of the highest crime rates in Europe. Fewer police are on the streets as a result of austerity measures, something which government critics say has been instrumental in the latest crime attacks. The issue of policing has historically been a sticking point in UK race relations, with black communities overwhelmingly targeted by controversial stop-and-search operations, what used to be called the sus laws in the 70s and 80s.
Stop and search is still a big issue for black youth on the streets. There's the problem of institutional racism. We're still disproportionately represented in prisons. When we come into contact with the police, we come worse off, either injured or dead.
The increased police presence has made a difference, with officers conducting more than 2,500 stop and searches in the last 3 days alone. In the last 12 months, we have seized thousands of weapons by utilising stop and search.
But are more police the answer? Home Secretary Sajid Javid has decided to increase stop and search operations in certain areas for a given time, allowing lower-ranking officers authority to sanction these. This is a complete turnaround from a previous policy in 2014, where only superintendent officers were allowed to do this. And there are fears this could worsen the relationship between communities and police.
The next video of active duty British soldiers using a picture of Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, as target practice is going viral. This footage was apparently filmed in Afghanistan and was surfaced on Twitter by someone called Ash Sarkar, who works for Novara Media in London. Now, she posted the clip, which came from the account of someone called Trevor Colt. He since deleted the tweet and claimed it was not real. The Ministry of Defence, though, begged to differ.
We are aware of a video circulating on social media. This behavior is totally unacceptable and falls well below the high standards the Army expects. A full investigation has been launched.
Well, as you can imagine, there's been a huge reaction on UK Twitter.
Absolutely shocked. This is a total disgrace and utterly unacceptable, not least emerging the day after somebody was convicted of trying to murder an MP.
Shameful and utterly unacceptable. This goes against the values and standards of the British Army. I welcome the Defence HQ investigation into this video and trust it will be resolved quickly.
This is absolutely hideous and irresponsible under this or any climate.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that have caught our eye on social media. Now, Chicago have elected their first black female mayor. Her name, Lori Lightfoot, has been trending across the globe. She campaigned on issues around social justice and inclusion. Ms. Lightfoot is gay and says that her election is historic and part of a movement for change. Now take a look at this video for a glimpse into the future when Amazon airships rule the skies. Now thankfully this is an animation. It was posted by Zozi009 from Hiroshima in Japan. And though this is a fake, Amazon did apply for a patent to make these kind of blimps back in 2016. So it's not really that far from reality. Now loads of things were once science fiction. Video calls, for example. And talking of science fiction, tickets for the longest ever Marvel movie, Avengers Endgame, went on sale for a brief time yesterday. As expected, the number of tickets being sold broke records and websites as fans clamoured to get their hands on them. The film is released in the United States on the 26th of April.
Where's the Avengers? We gotta finish this. You trust me?
Now, when India shot a satellite with a rocket, the government of Narendra Modi praised the achievement as a great step forward for the nation's war-making capability. But scientists all over the globe condemned it because of the space junk it caused, and now NASA say it was a terrible thing to do and that more than 400 tiny fragments of the satellite the Indian military shot as an election stunt are now in danger of impacting the International Space Station.
That is a terrible, terrible thing to create an event that sends debris in an apogee that goes above the International Space Station. And that kind of activity is not compatible with the future of human spaceflight that we need to see have happen. We are charged with commercializing low Earth orbit. We are charged with enabling more activities in space than we've ever seen before for the purpose of benefiting the human condition. Like, all of those are placed at risk when these kind of events happen. And when one country does it, then other countries feel like they have to do it as well.
Well, next to Hong Kong, where a crazy expensive watch came up for auction, leading to a bit of detective work and now some legal proceedings. Patrick Fox takes up the story.
Well, this really is a remarkable story. You have to imagine that Christian Owasco, who originally owned one of these Philippe Dufour Simplicity watches before he had it stolen from his home in Kent during a burglary, must have been keeping a very close eye on auction houses around the world in case anybody was flogging one of these timepieces, which he bought for $208,000. Now, there were only ever 200 of these watches ever made, and each one bore a specific registration number. It has the registration number 103 on it, and the one that was being sold in Hong Kong, lot 2299, had the registration number 108 on it. Upon closer examination, it was found that somebody had used a machine to alter the engraving so that the 3 was switched in to an 8. Now, Owasco is suing Sotheby's, as well as a man from Nanjing who consigned the watch for the auction for the return of this timepiece, and he is also consulting with experts for potential damages if it's not returned to him.
All right, let's go around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. Now, this selfie that they're about to take, that one there is being seen as sealing a drawn-out conflict between Greece and North Macedonia. Now, after the Republic of North Macedonia changed its name from the Republic of Macedonia, tension between them and Greece has eased, tensions which run back to the 1940s. Selfie diplomacy, what a world. And the world's biggest furniture store, IKEA, say they are getting there with their strict sustainability goals. They say that 60% of their stuff was made using renewable material and 10% contained recycled material. They're aiming for 100% renewable and recycled by 2030, so have quite some way to go. And Komodo Island, home to some 1,800 badass Komodo dragons, is closing to tourists. Crooks have been stealing the world's largest lizard and selling them for $35,000 each to other crooks, I imagine, as a Komodo is not your average pet. They grow to 3 meters long and have poisonous saliva. The Indonesian government say the island will close for a year while a survey is done of their habitat. Now, conversely, although the lack of access to these animals by criminals will increase their value, making them even more of a draw for poachers. Now, the Oscars have been warned not to exclude sites like Netflix from their awards consideration by the US Justice Department. The DOJ say that any changes to Oscars rules which would restrict Netflix native movies getting awards would be an antitrust violation. Now, for reasons known mainly to them, stars like Steven Spielberg and Helen Mirren have been hating on Netflix recently. The movie Roma, produced for and released on Netflix, won 3 Oscars this year. And next to YouTube. Now, what did the world's biggest video hosting site do to try and reduce the amount of hate, lies and conspiracy available to its users? Well, not much until recently. That's according to some new reporting. The suggestion is that for quite some time, YouTube turned a blind eye to dangerous videos. They chased the target of 1 billion views a day, and with it, increased ad revenue. Now, they say they've changed tack now, but is it already too little, too late?
Make sure that there is no mercury, no dental amalgam.
And last up, animals doing stuff, and we have some 8-legged things being smuggled. So if you're an arachnophobe, watch this next video with caution. Now, customs in the Philippines found 757 tarantulas in a shipment from Poland. The poisonous little beasts were being hidden inside boxes of cereal and cookies. So watch yourself next time you're opening a box for breakfast. Who knows what'll be in it? Well, that will be all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.